Hello and welcome to Biology Leap Review. We are beginning Unit 4 with this lesson, and in Unit 4 we're going to focus on ecology, and we're going to start off in this first lesson talking about photosynthesis. But before we can get into photosynthesis, we need to look at the anatomy of a leaf, because photosynthesis occurs in the leaves of plants. So let's just look at some of the main structures in a plant leaf. So leaves have a cuticle on the top and the bottom, and this cuticle is like our skin. It is waterproof, and so it protects the leaf, and it prevents the loss of too much water, because we know that plants need water. And then on the underside of the leaf, there are these little openings. They're called stoma, or stomata is the plural version. So stoma is just one of these little openings. Stomata is many of these openings, which there are many of these openings on the bottom side of leaves. And these little openings allow gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen to flow in and out of the leaf. And unfortunately, a little bit of water vapor escapes out those as well. But that's why none of those are on the top of the leaf, because the top of the leaf is exposed to the sun, and so it would be more likely to lose more water on that side of the leaf. So there's no openings in the cuticle. Now, underneath the cuticle, towards the top of the leaf, you have these cells, these elongated cells, and inside these cells are the chloroplasts. So these little green circular objects represent chloroplasts. Chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place, and that is why they are green, because they absorb the green wavelengths of the light that's coming from the sun. And that's also why leaves are green, because of all these little chloroplasts in them. And then, of course, if you've ever looked closely at a leaf, you see the veins that are running through the leaf, and these veins transport water to and from the leaf, and the glucose that is produced by the leaf are transported to other parts of the plant through these veins as well. Okay, so all right, so let's just go over some of those terms again. The cuticle, again, is the thick outer skin on a leaf. The chloroplasts are where, photosynthesis takes place. The vein are the tubes that run throughout the leaf and on into the plant, and they carry water and glucose throughout the plant. And then the stoma are the openings on the underside of the leaf that allow gases to enter and leave the leaf. Okay. So here's another image to show you what the stomata look like. And you'll notice that it shows that sometimes the stomata are open and sometimes they're closed. And they kind of look like little mouths. And so think of them in terms of when they're open, like an open mouth, they're allowing things in and out. But when they're closed, they don't allow things in or out. So sometimes at night, plants will close their stomata because they don't need, well, actually, sometimes during the day, they will close their stomata because they don't want to lose too much water. when it's hot, and they're more likely to have water vapor come out of these stomata. And they open them at night, and they absorb carbon dioxide at night that they need to do photosynthesis the next day when the sun is out. So sometimes plants do that to help conserve water. So gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen enter and exit plants through stomata, and liquids like water travel through the plant via the veins. Okay, so now that we understand the parts of the leaf, let's look at photosynthesis more directly. So think about, what would the world be like without trees, grass, or other plants? It would certainly be less beautiful, but it would also mean no oxygen for animals and no food for heterotrophs like us. And so all animals are heterotrophs, and plants are called autotrophs. And that's, autotroph means it can make its own food, but a heterotroph relies on other organisms in order to get food. So the leaves are like living machines that recycle the carbon dioxide gas in our environment. And this process is driven by the energy of the sun, and it allows for a constant supply of oxygen and food for all the inhabitants of the earth. So without photosynthesis, we could not survive. And another way to think about photosynthesis is it's like a filter. It filters our air for us. And you'll see that in more detail as we move along. But by taking in carbon dioxide and giving off oxygen, they act like a filter for our air. Okay, so if you look at this diagram, you see that the arrows pointing towards the leaf are things that are going into the leaf. So we see that energy from the sun hits the leaf, and then the leaf absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and then you've got water in a liquid form going into the leaf through the veins. And then things that are leaving the leaf, like I said, when the stomata are open on the underside of the leaf, sometimes water vapor gets out. So that's in the form of a gas. They lose water that way. And then also oxygen is leaving the plant, oxygen gas. And then sugars that are being made in the leaf during photosynthesis are transported out of the leaf via the veins to other parts of the plant. So there are three things that are entering the leaf, and these are the three things that plants require in order to do photosynthesis, and that would be carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight energy. And then there are three things that leave the leaf. And so these are things that are produced during photosynthesis. And that would be glucose, or sugar. That's another word for sugar. And oxygen. And a little bit of water vapor also leaves the leaf. So water is actually going in and coming out. And so hopefully for the plant, it's getting enough water, even though it is losing water. And that's why you'll see that water is so very important for plants in order to grow and live and do photosynthesis. So, so I just answered question number 7, which substance is both entering and leaving the leaf? That would be the water. And so the water enters the leaf as a liquid. And it leaves the leaf as water vapor, which is a gas. So, believe it or not, you just understood the process called photosynthesis. It's really not that complicated. But scientists like to use chemical formulas in order to show reactions like photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is a chemical reaction taking place in the leaves of plants inside the chloroplast. And so in order to write a chemical formula, we need to first write the reactants. And so these are the substances that start the chemical reaction. And then we write an arrow, and this indicates that a reaction is taking place. And then third, we write the products, and these are the substances that are produced in the chemical reaction. And so the general equation for photosynthesis says that carbon dioxide, water, and light energy, which are our reactants, combine together and produce our products, which are sugar and oxygen. So down here, we have a different way of looking at this equation. We have some models of the different molecules that are involved. So these are models of carbon dioxide. So the black inner round sphere is the carbon atom, and the two red ones on either side are oxygen atoms. So the chemical formula for carbon dioxide is CO2. So 1 carbon and 2 oxygens. And it takes 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water to get this chemical reaction going. And you'll see that water is H2O. So you've got the red carbon atom in the center, and then the 2 gray spheres are hydrogen. So 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen is water, H2O. And when these come together with some energy from the sun, a reaction takes place, and you produce 1 molecule of glucose. So if you'll look, it takes 6 carbon dioxides and 6 waters to make 1 glucose molecule, because glucose has 6 carbons. So that you see here, you can't see all 6 of the carbon atoms. Those are the red spheres, and 12 hydrogens, which are the gray, and 6 oxygens, which are the black spheres. And then also what's left over after the glucose is made is 6 molecules of oxygen. And oxygen is one of these molecules that is never alone. There's never a single separate element, atom of oxygen alone. They always come in pairs. And so oxygen is always O2 when it is by itself. Okay, so if you could picture the molecules coming together in order to do photosynthesis, that is what they might look like. So let's write the reactants for photosynthesis. And so there are 3 reactants. So carbon dioxide combines with water and sunlight. Okay, and so those are our reactants. Those 3 things come together. And in a chemical reaction, the molecules are broken down and rearranged into completely new molecules. Okay, so with the energy from the sun, these carbon and oxygen atoms are split apart. These hydrogen and oxygen atoms are split apart. And then they recombine into these new substances. So how does the leaf get these reactants? So the water enters the plant through the vein via the roots up from the soil. The carbon dioxide enters the leaf through the stomata from the atmosphere. Did not spell that right. There we go. And then the energy from the sunlight. It just hits the leaf. It doesn't have to actually enter the leaf. It just hits the leaf and it starts the reaction. And so then after the reaction, the chemical reaction occurs, the products of photosynthesis are glucose or sugar and oxygen. So where do these products go when they are made? So the glucose goes on to the vein and travels to other parts of the plant, sometimes to be stored in the fruit or the roots. And just think about that when we eat a plant, most of the time what we're eating are the fruits and the roots or the flowers. Like a potato and a carrot are roots. And that's just all glucose that we're getting when we eat those parts of the plant. Broccoli, the tops of the broccoli are the flowers. And then also the leaves, add the leaves because sometimes we eat the leaves. So the glucose is just stored in lots of different places in the plant and is available for animals and humans to eat. Now the oxygen travels, leaves the leaf through the stomata and enters the atmosphere. Okay. So when we look at the model up here, we see that the carbon atoms are the black spheres, and the oxygen are the red, and the hydrogen are the gray. So we just have three elements that are involved, three different types of atoms. So the carbon is the black, and the oxygen is the red, and the hydrogen is the gray. So that's it. That is the process of photosynthesis. Pretty simple. So let's think about what that word means. So photo means light, and synthesis, like a synthesis essay, means to put together. So photosynthesis means to use light to put things together. So what is being put together with the help of light in the process of photosynthesis? So think about that for a minute. So photosynthesis is putting carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms together. Let's be more specific. So photosynthesis is putting carbon dioxide and water together to form glucose and oxygen. So it's really important for you to not only remember the formula for photosynthesis, but to really understand what is going on in photosynthesis. And so that wraps up this video for photosynthesis. And I thank you for your attention. When we come back in our next video, we will be talking about cellular respiration, which is basically the opposite chemical reaction for photosynthesis. And in this reaction, this glucose is broken down, and the energy that was stored from the sun is released out of this glucose molecule. so that it can be used for energy for other living things or the plant itself. So thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next time.